Well, we're live. It's responding. Excellent. I'm seeing excellent conditions. I like that. Excellent. Let's go. Let's go. I hope everyone is doing great today. I hope you've had a restful weekend so far. Today, I would like to explore an exciting topic. And it's around handling pressure, right? Handling pressure as a database administrator, handling alerts, notification, just real DBA stress. If you've been a database administrator or worked in any kind of production support environment for a little bit, then you've dealt with this before, right? It's a normal scenario. Now, before I jump into all of the fun things and all of the shenanigans that we'll be talking about this afternoon, please, if you have not subscribed to this channel, go ahead and do so. It will mean a lot to me and the team if you went ahead and subscribed. We've been seeing steady increase in our subscription number. So thank you for everybody who's a recent subscriber. Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. And we hope you're getting value out of the contents that we share on a regular basis. Make sure you tell others about what we do. We're here every Saturday, just exploring, navigating, just how to be prepared, better prepared for the world of work in information technology. And that's what we do. And I am Namdi Henacho, and I'm the faculty lead here at NSTAR Technologies. I teach database administration. That's my line of work. Been at it for the last decade and a half. So have a lot of experience, and that's what I talk about quite a bit on this channel, on this forum, on this platform. So today, like I said before, I will be getting into how to handle pressure, right? Handling pressure, outages, and alerts, real stressors, and how to handle it, how to manage all of that, right? That's the gist of today's conversation, right? Now, what are some of the things that stress us out, right? I don't know if you've been a database administrator or works in support. You've gotten that phone call by 2 a.m. in the morning when everything was quiet the whole day, and then suddenly you get that buzz and it goes up and it says, hey, can you jump on a quick call? Can you jump on a bridge? Something is going on. Server so and so and so is acting funny. Or we were getting notifications. It's going crazy. Can you jump on the phone? Right? And it's that abrupt problem. Like every day, the whole day has gone very calmly, no issues. In fact, it's looking like it's a boring on-call rotation. Not much is going on, and suddenly you get that call, and that is the rest of your night into the new day. Always frustrating. I can remember during the week before my wedding, having to get this, like carry my laptop around everywhere I went, and just to leaving under duress. And getting, I think I got one call that week around 2 a.m. and I was about to be like, don't you guys have any respect? Do you have any empathy at all? So that's always crazy when it happens. But it's the fun of the job, right? It's so that alert, it's always crazy when it happens. And it leads to what we call when an outage occurs, then now you have to step in and be that next tier of escalation, right? And so now the outage happens and you have to manage crisis when a critical service is completely unavailable. You need to start communicating with an anxious manager because they're thinking about revenue and how things are, and they have to answer to somebody in the morning, right? So all of these things, the notification, the outage, the stakeholders that you have to navigate that conversation with, the business folks that you have to refine the conversations, to make sure you're communicating urgency, but not being it's all blown up. And because that's the kind of thing they don't want to hear. You don't want to go like, oh, it's all crazy, everything's going to ashes. But you want to communicate the reality of the situation without over exaggerating what's going on, right? So let's look at the first phase of navigating this, right? My goal with this is just to provide you today with a mental playbook, right, of how to navigate this type of situations, right? A tactical process, to remain calm, to diagnose effectively, and hopefully manage the crisis well, manage it better. That's what I want to talk about. That's my objective with this, with the conversation today. So stage one, what you're doing first. That's the tactical outage playbook. We'll talk about this for a little bit, right? And I'm focusing on this section just with structured response that's necessary to minimize any downtime regardless of the problem. All right. So the first one is the immediate triage, right? Don't start fixing, start with assessment. There is that urgency, there's almost that impulse that we have to jump to solving the problem, right? Because we've seen one symptom, the other symptom, we don't do the analysis, we don't do proper investigation a lot of the time, especially when you've been in an environment for a little while. You're familiar with some of the issues with specific servers, and so you want to jump into solving problems, and it might not be the best approach. A lot of the time it might pay you better to stop and do some analysis, do some investigation, right? Don't just go and say, oh, I know this, I'm very familiar with this server, I know what's going on, whenever this happens, this is what to do. Maybe it's always good to do a little bit of investigation, right, and see what's happening for real, and make a good call. Don't start fixing, without assessing. Look at assess the situation, look at the impact, look at who is affected, what aspects of the business, who do we need to communicate with, right? Do a proper triage, do a proper investigation, do a proper deep dive into the problem, regardless of urgency or quote unquote urgency. The outages happened, right? And that leads me to the second thing, right? You need to have your run book discipline. You already have, more than likely, good organizations that I've been part of always have some kind of, run book. A run book is just a step by step on how to handle certain situations, when they arise. Don't start fixing anything without properly assessing, right? Having that written, play by play documentation, is very important. Right now, it helps you so that you're not going into panic mode during an outage, which is inevitable. If you stay long enough in this line of work, you're going to deal with one of those outages where things just go crazy and you have to figure out a solution and do it fast, right? And so have that run book discipline. And it helps with just making sure you're following your steps, you're following already established protocol. Don't just run to try to solve the problem because of the symptoms. Follow the steps that has already been documented, and then establish a crisis bridge if that's not already been done. Okay, so typically there will be, most of the time we get this calls through escalation. Maybe there's like if you work in certain companies that are larger in scale, they have an offshore team, and the offshore team may be based in India or some other place that's monitoring the environment, and they notify you that there's an outage, right? Or maybe there's a knock, an operator, there's a third shift knock that's monitoring. Knock is a network operation center, and they're monitoring, all of the patterns and behaviors across the network and the infrastructure for your organization. And they are typically another group that might be the ones calling and saying, hey, we're noticing certain behaviors from the database. Database is acting funny, we're getting this alert, jump on the call, or can you take a look, right? So once you get that notification, a lot of places, depending on how critical the server is, they already have a bridge established. A bridge is just a conference call, it's a conference line, everybody jumps on it. Depending on the urgency, if that's not the case and you feel like there's a need to establish, that communication, go ahead and do it, but make sure there's, a communication channel already established promptly, right? It makes sure you're bringing and involving the people that need to know about what's going on. Loop them in. They might not see the communication till morning if it's happening by 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. or 4 a.m., right? But it's important that you enforce a communication lead, right? Get the right people in a call if that's required. Open an email thread, Slack channel, whatever it is, but make sure there's some level of communication established, like, hey, this is the current situation and this is what we're working on. In that way, you are not navigating the situation in isolation. It's super important. Now, once you've done that, the next thing is, isolate and stabilize, right? What are some quick fixes? Let's stop the bleeding, right? Let's stop the bleeding. Let's throw on some band-aid. And as we get deeper, right, focus first on temporary solutions. Okay, get your services back up quickly, right? If you have any critical services that that are running, that are, especially if it's customer impacting, if it's revenue impacting, you want to get that back running. So get those temporary, just temporary solutions to get things going, get it back up. stop the bleeding, stop the, just put that band-aid up first. And then you can now start looking to implement your longer term solutions, the more permanent fixes. But you want to at least get us up so that if people are jumping on the call to say what's going on, we're getting these emails, you can tell them, yes, we're back online. Yes, we did have that issue, but it's under control. Services are back up right now. However, I'm working on a so and so solution so that it's something that doesn't reoccur again. Okay, so it's very important to um, go through that. So quick fixes, isolate, and then stabilize, and then there's what we call the backup guarantee, right? As part of this process, know exactly where your most recent validated backup are, right? How far back, just in case you need to revert back to that. So as you navigate, you might not be able to, your quick fixes might not work. The solutions you're thinking, it might be something that is deeper than, a really big, deep issue. And you might need to move back. You might need to do a refresh. You might need to go back to a previous state before an event that led triggered the outage. And so always know the state of your backups. Yeah, and that's something you're also communicating to stakeholders and letting them know, like, hey, listen, if all else fails, we have a backup did happen by 12 a.m. this morning. And so we can always go back to that if need be, right? That's your fail safe always, right? Disaster recovery at its finest. All right. So the next is you need to master the mental game, right? So we started with phase one is, I started talking about the pressure and what that means. And now I've talked about that your tactical outage playbook. Next, I want to explore, the mental aspect of this, right? There are certain skills you need to have to maintain clarity and focus under extreme duress, because this is where most people make mistakes on that job, right? As database administrators, during this high pressure moments, high stakes type situation, people tend to drop the ball. And it gets crazy, and people make mistakes, sometimes avoidable, right? Because they get in panic mode. So how do I make sure that I'm not getting into that state where I'm making decisions that might be unhealthy or or not good for for me as a database administrator? Yeah, what we do is too sensitive to be in panic mode. Number one, take a deep breath. Right, take a deep breath. There's so many techniques around actually taking a deep breath. Sometimes you say take a deep breath, and we mean it metaphorically, right? Where it's really just breathe, like right. Take a real deep breath, slow your breathing down, calm down, you're under stress, but just know, hey, you got this, right? You already understand this environment, you know how these things work, you're trained for this moment. So don't get into panic mode, don't get panicked, don't let anything rush your process. Just take a deep breath, slow down. It will help you regardless of how crazy everybody is going on, is going around you. Take a deep breath. And then the next one I have here, tunnel vision versus broad view, right? The ability to deep dive and diagnose the root cause, but also remember the broader business objective, getting us back to work. Keep that in mind. Yes, it's you have to always know, hey, I'm trying to get us back to work. But you're looking at the business objective, which is get us back to work while you're doing your deep dive. So again, that's why thorough analysis is important. Figure out the root cause, and then okay, how can we get back online while I am looking to build a more permanent solution, or a more robust solution if that's the direction you want to go. And then remove emotion from your diagnosis. This is super important. Focus solely on the data, right? What are you seeing from your logs, your log files? What are the metrics you're seeing? All right. Don't focus on how upset everybody is or how everybody's rushed. Don't focus on how tired you are and they don't pay me enough for this job. Um, Data is a neutral observer, right? Data is the neutral observer. Focus on the data, focus on the issues, focus on what you're being fed from the log files, from all the metrics that you have access to that's helping you diagnose the situation. That's what should direct your course of action, not how aggressive the caller is, not how upset everybody is, not how stressed out and how tired you are. Take the emotion out of the process. it might be difficult to do. Get upset after you're done, but while you're in it, take the emotions out. Focus on just getting the solution in place, putting in place the right solution, and getting out of this unscathed, and letting the business continue to thrive. um and then this one is important, saying I don't know yet, right? It's important. You have to be able to say, like, I'm working on it, right? There's a level of confidence to admit you haven't found the root cause, right? But be able to communicate a clear action plan, right? I don't know the course yet, so I'm doing a deep dive into this, but here's what I'm working on. These are the next 3 steps I'm going to take. It's super important. It's okay not to, like, if it's just happened, you're just jumping on the call, you're just jumping into and beginning your investigation. Communicate that to anybody who is asking for updates. All right. A lot of the time, people, stakeholders they don't necessarily care. They just want to, they care, but for them, they look at, like, hey, what's going on? What's the solution? What are we doing? And sometimes you don't have that answer just yet. All right. So don't let anybody put you under additional pressure. Let them know I'm working on that. I don't quite know what exactly caused it, but we're looking at everything right now. This is exactly, I'm looking at the logs, I'm checking this, I'm looking at this, it might be this, but I want to be sure. But these are the things I'm doing to make sure we get to the root of this, and make sure we're back up as soon as possible. Once I get something more concrete, I'll be communicating that with you guys. So super important to be okay saying I don't know yet. Don't make stuff up. Don't make stuff up, because if it turns out to be wrong or not the exact thing, it might be a little bit more, it might affect your credibility, first of all, and it could lead to bigger issues. So let's not do that. And then once you're past the incident you've solved, you need to start looking at lessons learned, right? That post-incident, and this is the next phase of this whole process, right? That post-incident period and learning. Okay, the crisis is not over until the lessons are learned and incorporated. This is a big part of what we do. You have to be able to go back and take the lessons and document that, just in case. Build that into your own book. Build that into your processes. In that way, if it comes up again, you're ready for it. So we do this post-mortem type. I've been in the company where we do a post-mortem for every major outage, and what it involves or entails is doing, conducting an analysis of an incident. And the focus is process improvement, right? What are some of the systematic weaknesses we discovered by these incidents? The focus of these things is not individual error or who messed up. It's focusing on what are from a system perspective, where are the loopholes? What holes do we need to plug, right? It's about process improvement, not necessarily about pointing fingers. What failed? Is it a tool? Is it a process? Or is it a decision that somebody made, right? That's the question you're asking in this post-mortem. It's a blameless review of what happened. Okay, so this is post-incident. Do a proper post-mortem. And then update the run book, right? Immediately incorporate the lessons learned into the documentation you already have, so that if it happens next time, I've talked about this already, you don't want to make the same mistakes twice. You don't want to run into the same issue and have the same repeat occurrence. You want to have learned from the one time it happened and put measures in place to successfully ensure that you continue to function, right? So update the run book once you figure out the solution. And then we go into proactive prevention, right? Turn the crisis into a project. Turn this crisis into a project. Did the outage expose any weakness or in storage in any of your systems? Then that's a project that start looking at how do we upgrade this aspect. Whatever exposure came out of this, we want to make sure we activate a project that will solve that problem. Whether maybe resource shortage in resources, maybe there's solutions that need to be implemented. Make a project out of it. Again, so that this does not there's no repeat occurrence. And then decompress, right? Decompress. This takes a mental toll. Outages stress you out. If you spent all night troubleshooting an issue, maybe it might be a day like I'm going to work from home. Tell your manager, listen, if it's okay with you, I'd love to work from home. I want to get some rest till noon, and I'll be online by 1, something like that. A lot of managers are flexible with this, and they will let you have that, after going through a crazy outage type situation. Take some recovery time. And again, I'm not saying take the day off or do something crazy like that. No, it's this happens as part of our work, but maybe it doesn't take a couple of hours, right? Maybe you need to work from home the next day and just not be in another stressful, situation. But just, that's the way to prevent burning out. A lot of people are burnt out because they go from crisis and then they go right back into the next thing and continue like nothing stopped. And that doesn't bode well for for the long term. So make sure you're taking time to breathe and decompress. After you've gone through this kind of fire drill. All right. So that's, I hope you've gained some value, out of this. But as a database administrator, if you're able to manage stress well, it's going to help your career long term. It's going to help you be successful. The one who is able to really, focus on process over emotion is the one that is able to do really well in this game, right? Have a structure in place, how the communication lines work, the run book, all of those things. Okay, so it's very, very important. So I really encourage you to practice this stress management techniques. Don't prepare when there's a crisis. If you did that, but I needed to start looking at what are the things you have in place for a crisis right now. Do I have proper run books? Do I, what's my protocol? Who am I going to get on the bridge if something I need to set up a call, right? What's that communication channel going to look like? So start mentally preparing for this type of things. And start getting ready and all of that. And if you're somebody who's here and you stumbled across this video and you're looking to get into a career in tech, in database administration, or just beyond, or something else, and you want to have a conversation about how we can assist you get started in this, in a career in tech, then please go in the description and book a call with our people who would love to learn about what your goals are. I would love to help you get started in the career in information technology. I hope you have learned something today. Please, if you have not subscribed, go ahead and do so. Like I said, it helps. It helps us continue to grow and be able to continue bringing value your way. Thank you again so much for your time. I do appreciate everybody who continues to, watch the sessions, who continues to share them. Subscribers, please go ahead and subscribe. Forward this to somebody else who might benefit from this. And if you have any comments, please share them. Let's engage in the comments. We read the comments to make sure we are constantly, you know, feeding and serving the community properly. So if you have any thoughts, any contributions, or any topics you feel like, hey, do a video on this, I'd love to learn more about this. We'll love to do that. So drop it in the comments and then we'll get to it. All right, till this time next week. Continue to excel and stay workforce ready. And I'll see you next week Saturday. God bless you.